Welcome to the World Builders Anvil, episode 298. Upcoming. Don't know where to start building your fantasy world?
Do you need more? Does it make sense?
Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination.
This is the place where we will prime your mind.
Now, it's time to heat up the forge.
Break out the mithril ingots and hammer.
Welcome to the World Builders Anvil. I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Michael Miller.
Let's sup from the mug of Java and build. Welcome back. Refusing to demonstrate the skill of Shaolin, my name is Jeffrey W. Ingram.
With a lack of professionalism, I am Michael Miller.
Very good. Trying to be professional as always, Michael Miller. So today is the episode I like to do kind of like once a quarter. And sometimes it'll lead into other episodes or whatever, but I really wanted to get into some stuff I'm looking forward to, or we're looking forward to, especially me. If Michael comes up with stuff that's nice.
Thanks.
But unimportant.
But ultimately unimportant.
But the idea is just kind of like upcoming fiction, you know, in any video or in any format that we have, stuff that we're looking forward to. And just because, you know, it's just like, hey, you know, you might not know it's coming out, or you might know it's coming out and are interested to, or think we're idiots. Anyway, you want to go, here we are. Okay. So right off of the bat here, I want to get into books. There's one book in particular I'm looking forward to, and that is called The Testaments. And this is from...
I don't think I'm aware of this one.
Margaret Atwater, who is, I think, become recently famous because of her book, The Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
And so now, sort of in a George R. R. Martin kind of move, Hulu has made the series popular, or made the book popular because of its series. She's coming out with the follow-up to it called The Testaments. And so it's kind of interesting for those of you who do not know. It's sort of like a world where the birth rate goes into the toilet. And so you have a dystopia built on the idea of the few women who are capable of having children and how they are used by essentially an extremist Christian conservative cult.
Isn't that what The Handmaid's Tale is?
Well, this is the follow-up to it. So I'm like, it's based off of this world, but it's essentially the follow-up to the book.
Okay. Sorry, I think I missed that part.
Yep. So yes, that's exactly what it is. Yes. And so it'll be interesting to see one, you know, how influenced is she by the TV series? Because there's some things like in the TV series that I don't think get covered in the book. And even how maybe it's just like a different section. I don't know much about it outside of it's coming out. And I think it'll be interesting. So The Testaments.
I'm looking forward to the new Ghost Recon, the follow-up to Wildlands, which was incredibly popular, very successful. I forget which studio did it, but it's one of the Tom Clancy games, and they've done a great job supporting.
There are several Tom Clancy games, aren't there? I mean, there's like, I think The Division is one of his. And
there's a very many. Yeah. Like they basically, anything that's like paramilitary, they slap the Tom Clancy name on
label
there.
On, yeah.
Yeah. And most of them are very in their favor, to their credit. Most of them are very good games. And
a lot of them turn out into those annual sort of kind of a new game once a year kind of games.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I will say this, the Tom Clancy ones, there's definitely more variety in what they do. Like, sure, they do have certain games that keep coming out. They've made a ton of different Rainbow Six games, but they have all been different. Like, I loved Rainbow Six 3, and it took them about 15 years to make another Rainbow Six 3 that I liked. They made Rainbow Six 3, and then they made a few other versions of Rainbow Six 3 that now we just call expansions, but back then it was when they were still printing discs.
Yeah.
And then they made a whole bunch of different other Rainbow Six games, and none of them played the way Rainbow Six 3 did, so I didn't enjoy them. which isn't to say they were bad games.
Just not
They were
necessarily your taste.
good.
Yeah.
They just were missing this certain feel that
Mhm.
Rainbow Six 3 had that was really, really good.
Yeah, which Rainbow Six, if I remember correctly, is sort of like a special ops, sort of like
It's
attack
small,
kind of team, like international.
Yeah, small squad tactics. Usually, your missions are like 2 or 4 guys. And then they eventually got to Rainbow Six Vegas, and Vegas, like 10, 15 years later, played like Rainbow Six 3. And I was like, oh my gosh, they finally went back to the well and built it the way the other game was. And of course, there was tons of way more
changes.
Way more equipment and
okay.
armor, and there was a lot more things that you could wear and use in that game than the prior one. So it was just all around better. And I don't remember exactly what they were, but I had 3 complaints about Vegas, and then they released Vegas 2, and it addressed all 3 complaints. So Rainbow Six Vegas 2 is one of the best shooters I've ever played. It was
I thought the sequel was New Vegas. I guess that's not the sequel.
No, New Vegas, I believe, is your Fallout.
Oh, that's true.
So
I thought it was a sequel. I thought like the main story had failed in Vegas.
Oh yeah, no, that's a dramatic
nuclear holocaust.
It does take place way in the future. So yeah, the new Ghost Recon I'm looking forward to. I actually stopped to pre-order it the other day. I didn't actually pre-order it. I decided not to just yet, but I will be pre-ordering it soon.
Okay, very good. Yes. Now that's possibly a good one for those of you out there who like the shooters. Now, along the lines of shooters, but not quite, I have a couple here. We'll start with Cyberpunk 2077. I've talked a little bit about that in the past. And I'm going to skip about Bloodlines 2. We did a whole episode on that, so that was just going to outside mention here. But Cyberpunk 2077 will have first-person shooter elements, but obviously it's a role-playing game, which I typically prefer story-driven games more than shooter with story. I prefer story with shooter style games. And one of the 2 on my list that would fit that quite well will be Cyberpunk 2077. It's the idea of, I don't know everything that's going to be in there. I don't follow these things super closely, but I do believe there's supposed to be at least something to do with net running and that kind of stuff. So it sounds like it'll be terrific.
I'm excited for this one too. I can't remember. Is it coming to the Xbox One?
I believe so. I believe it's going to be I think it's
cross-platform.
I think on PC it's. I'm not positive, but I think it might be an Epic Store exclusive. It might be, but I think it's still coming out on PC or on Xbox and
PlayStation 4
as well. I don't like the exclusive deals, but when you get offered a buttload of money, who can blame someone? So, and this will be the kind of game that will have replayability for years. I played the original Cyberpunk game back in the early 90s. I don't know when it came out.
I don't know if I played the original Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Which system it was, or computer?
It was actually called Cyberpunk. No, it was actually a tabletop role-playing game.
Oh, you're literally talking Cyberpunk.
Yeah, literally Cyberpunk. And,
because I think they may have had a PC game for it back then.
Before?
Yeah.
I remember there were a couple Cyberpunk style games back then. I remember there's one I played. It was very bug-ridden called BloodNet, I think. And it was like you're a vampire, but you have a cybernetic implant which is preventing you from turning completely. So you're trying to unvampire yourself. But that was a really long time ago, so I don't even remember when I played that.
I have also played the tabletop. I was actually making the assumption that you weren't referring to that. I don't know why I made that assumption. Probably because we're just talking about video games. But but yes, I have also.
But in this episode, it could be a role-playing game.
Yeah, that's true. I've also played the tabletop Cyberpunk. I played a lot of it, and I loved that game.
Well, there was another one at the time too called Cyberspace, and I'm sure there were some other ones too, because that's kind of when Cyberpunk, like Gibson, was getting big back then, and the setup for like the Keanu Reeves movies were were being written, and it was an interesting genre. Shadowrun. I was about to call it Shadowpunk, but Shadowrun. Obviously was sort of, those were like, I think Shadowrun and Cyberpunk were the 2 big games. And Cyberspace was one, and I forget which one I played more because it's so long ago. It's like I never played like the 2020 version. It was the original version I played. So because there's like also 2020 and then a 2030 and now 2077. And I believe there will be a role playing desktop game coming out based off of it as well too. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it'll be a fun game. I think it'll have a good, expansive story. These are the guys who made Witcher, the Witcher series, which has done really well. Very popular. I've not had the chance to truly play Witcher 3, so I can't talk much about it. Well, I've seen it's an interesting, engaging world, though, so it'll be good to see what they do here in Cyberpunk 2077. Because the difference is, too, when you get into a Cyberpunk, you're talking about urban area, so how well do they do with the vertical and the underground, and all of the different layers of it. And I believe it's after there was a nuclear bomb in one of the Cyberpunk stories that went off. So it'll be interesting to see if they even deal with that. They talk about it and what are the repercussions of that in the city of Night City. But I think that'll be a very interesting game to take a look at going forward.
Am I going next?
You are up.
I'm a little excited about Destiny's new TLC. And the reason I say it that way is because I actually haven't been playing much Destiny lately. For the past, like,
Destiny, you mean Destiny 2. They're not really coming out with stuff for Destiny anymore, or am I wrong?
No, I do mean Destiny 2, but I just say I'm Destiny because, most players played 1 and stopped playing 1 and started playing 2.
Okay.
So I am referring to DLC for Destiny 2. It's been good, but I have not gotten into this game the way I got into the first one. Mm-hmm. It definitely plays different and arguably better, but there's a lot of aspects of it that like generally when I get on, I only play for like a half hour. So I usually just play some, I play a lot of
shoot some things, but
I usually do PvP, and a lot of my friends that I played, back in the day on the first Destiny, it was always I was playing stuff with other people. And I had a very, very active group of friends that I played with on a very consistent basis. Like every day it was like, all right, going to be on at this time. Let's go do a raid. So I was always doing raids and big activities. There is so much content in Destiny 2 that I have not experienced. I think there's 4 raids. I've only been through one of them, and I've only been through it one time. I would love to do more of the raids, but I just don't. The guys, I'm in a clan, and I never see the people in my clan on. And when they're on, they're usually together and already and don't have a spot for me. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of frustrating that way, especially since they made it easier to get together with people in the second one. But honestly,
you've experienced just the opposite.
It's not that I don't go to much trouble. Like I really do like next to nothing to create friends in Destiny 2. I just don't bother. I turn on Destiny 2, I go into matchmaking, I play my PvP, and then that's about it. Like I just don't do any of the activities. When I played Destiny 1, I was so into it. That I would give friends keys to my apartment when I went on vacation to have them come over and do my weekly activities in Destiny while I was on vacation.
So they got done.
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, yeah, because they're like every week for certain, and it's the same in Destiny too. There's certain things you can do in that week. Like you can do certain activities, you can do them, 10 times, but if you do them 10 times, you're only going to get the loot for it in the first run. But you'll only get it that run and only once a week. So if you miss a week, you miss getting that big loot that week. So I had my buddy, I was like, hey, do my Nightfalls for me because I want to make sure to get the Nightfall.
So kind of like dog watching, but instead of a dog, it's your
exactly. Yeah, yep. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but but in Destiny 2, I don't do any of that stuff at all. Like I never do Nightfalls. I never do the weekly stuff. All I do is I do bounties, I do PvP, and if I can get some friends together, I'll do PvP with friends. And I would love to do the raids, but I just don't do them. So they had released some content for it a while back that really reinvigorated the game, and I started playing it a lot again. I'm hoping this next DLC drop is good, and it seems to be it's going to be pretty significant. So I'm hoping it's something that's going to
re-engage you.
Re-engage me, exactly. It's a good way to say it, because I do still like the game. Like, it's a reliable play every time. I know what to expect. I know what it's going to do, and I do still enjoy the activity. I would like to have more enthusiasm for it than I do these days.
Yeah, very good.
So the new Destiny DLC, I believe it's called Shadows Keep.
Shadows Keep
or Shadow Keep. It's something like that.
Something with shadows.
Yes, there's lots of darkness.
It's darker. Now, my next one's going to be the Outer Worlds from Obsidian Entertainment, the guys who made Fallout New Vegas, the sequel to Tom Clancy's Vegas 2, I believe. But actually, the developers of the original Fallout and Fallout 2 work for Obsidian.
And the original Fallout and Fallout, you're referring to the shooters, not the original PC Fallout, right?
The original PC Fallout.
Okay, the original PC Fallout, for anyone that doesn't know, was actually going to be a game based on GURPS by Steven Jackson. Yeah. And
that's how I found out about it. Yep.
They went through some development hiccups, and eventually Jackson dropped out of the project. But I guess the backbone of the game is still very much built around the GURPS system.
The idea of skills and attributes, and very data driven.
And you may have heard before that Jeff and I are very big fans of the GURPS system. So Fallout is just really, really cool.
Yep. The Outer Worlds is supposed to be, I mean, if you ever played Fallout New Vegas, you'll know that story-wise, it was much more engaging than especially like a Fallout 4.
You didn't like Fallout 4, right?
I did not like, I like elements of Fallout 4. It's like I could go on, I could play it. Like the shooting parts were a bit more engaging. The story was pretty bad, very short. So it's like there are elements of it I enjoyed, and I'll go in and I'll do like some of the building or stuff like that, and I'll run through it. But I still probably play Fallout 3 more than I play Fallout 4.
What's more engaging for you? Would you rather a game like that interacts like Fallout, i.e. your interface and your combat and whatever, that is linear but like a really good story? Or would you rather a story that's, okay, and there's a lot, like it still has a good story, but then after the story's over, i.e. like a Skyrim, you still have a huge world to go out there and explore? Would you like that, or a game where once it's done, but it is a really good story?
I could go, it depends. That's a tough one. It's like, usually I like a good story, and that's why the Outer Worlds is interesting. Their idea is it's not going to be a super long story. They're not even trying to call it a AAA game. They're a smaller studio. They don't have the budget for it. But the idea was the way you build your character can impact the way the game plays. The way you play the game impacts the way the story unfolds. So you can replay the game several times and have different experiences throughout it, supposedly. If it works correctly. Sort of like, I guess, same kind of idea as like a Fire Emblem Three Houses, which I'm currently playing on Switch.
I'm sorry, Fire
Emblem Three Houses.
Fire Emblem Three Houses. Okay.
Yeah, which is another one of those like really long going turn-based strategy games that goes back to like probably the Nintendo or maybe the PlayStation. I don't know. But
I love a good turn-based strategy game on the right platform. Those are such great games.
Yeah, and it's actually a great game if you have a Switch. And the neat thing is, it's like you at the beginning choose which house. There are 3 houses at a school, and you become the professor for one of the 3 houses. And then that plus some of the decisions depends on how the story unfolds, how you see the actions happening, and actually some of the characters will develop differently based off of if you're close to them or not, is my understanding. And I've played through once, not a super long game, but it has replayability because you can go back through it, replay it, and make different choices and have the game turn out differently. So there's an appealing to that. I like games with replayability, ultimately. So whether it's either a mediocre story that I can keep playing in the world, but there's there's little short stories all over the world. There has to be stories involved. That can't just be straight exploring.
Mhm.
And not just environmental stories like in Fallout 76, where you have like you can find little holodiscs that you can read that tell you like a bit of information. I need NPCs. I need that kind of stuff throughout the world and driving the story, because it's ultimately the characters that get you interested and engaged in what's going on. So something like Skyrim is good, or something like Fire Emblem Three Houses, which I think the way I've heard the Outer Worlds is going to play more like that, where there's just a lot of replayability. To play a stupid character, it'll be a completely different way you interact with people going through in dialogue than it would be if you're playing a smart character. Which is, if you played classic Fallout games, was a thing where you would have, because of certain attributes or certain perks, you would have certain dialogue options sometimes that you wouldn't even have available to you, or know that they're there if you did not have those perks. So, and they also have this interesting feature too, that if it works correctly, it'll be interesting, where you can actually gain flaws throughout the game. Say you get caught in fires too much, you take too much fire damage, maybe you become afraid of fires. And if you accept that as a flaw, which you're given the option by the game, then it will make it more negative if you get around that situation again. But it gives you an additional like perk you can buy. Which you can only get these points by taking flaws. So it kind of encourages you to take flaws to develop a character with negative attributes, and you'll experience the game differently. And then depending on your difficulty levels, the number of flaws you can acquire to get additional perks. And I would assume the more difficult the game is, the more bad flaws you could probably take on, because there's a negative consequence. And I'll make up the fire thing. I don't know if that's really one of them or not. I don't know, but it sounds like a fun game. It's going to be enough. It's going to be a shooter. I do prefer the shooter / RPG games, even though they start to get close to Borderlands style sort of shooter games with story. But I think they can, for me, they're overall more immersive than the 3D isometric, the old style games. They're just, to me, they're more immersive if done well. So I'm looking forward to the Outer Worlds.
I'm looking forward to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
That's right. I've heard about that one too.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of the last big ones they made that were real actiony, which was Outcast. Was that the one I'm thinking of? It might not be no, it wasn't Outcast. It was Unleashed. Yeah, it's, The Force Unleashed, which was fantastic. I loved that game. I liked the sequel as well. A lot of people bash on the sequel, but I enjoyed the sequel. I thought that some of the story in the sequel was a bit outlandish because,
like me.
Did you play through both of them?
No, I played either one of those games.
It's really fun. Like you get to be a Jedi and do Jedi things the way you've always wanted to in that game. Like you get to do all kinds of cool, awesome Jedi combat.
And the name, Force Unleashed. You get to unleash their force.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty nasty. Like you get to a point where you're like basically cutting AT-STs and pulling TIE fighters out of the air with your force abilities. It's like really, really fun. It's nasty. And this upcoming Jedi Fallen Order seems, I'm not saying that it looks like that game. What I am saying is that it seems to have what I've seen of it so far. It seems to have a strong action base to it. It does look like it has a pretty solid story as well. Time will tell. I haven't played anything, so I don't know. But what it looks like something that's going to be up my alley.
Okay, very cool. My next one, and I probably won't spend as much time on this one, is Mountain Blade 2. I did play the original Mountain Blade, but I played its somewhat updated version, Mountain Blade Warband, which is a fun game where you actually... It's a grind fest game. You could call it RPG, but you could play it as an RPG, but that's you adding story in your mind to it. There's a little bit of story going on. It's kind of like simulating yourself as a lord in a medieval realm. And so there are certain things that you can do that have economic impact on the lands that you control, including taking over or losing control of lands that you own to enemy. or conquering a castle and then having your liege lord tell you, good job, I want to give that to my friend. Have a nice day. Then you can choose whether or not you want to turn against your liege lord. So it's really kind of in a way a medieval simulator, but it's focused on the combat side of things. And you can make decisions. You can get involved in trading and stuff as well too. It's interesting where the combat is actually a 3D simulator. So it's like a 3D first-person shooter type of thing, but most of the overland stuff is actually your classic 2D map, where you see yourself moving across, and sometimes enemies can be seen based off of your ability to detect them. So it was a fun game. It's one of those where I could pick up. There's no real trying to complete it. I guess you could try and win it all. I don't have enough time to spend in a game like that because it's literally a siege could take hours. So not quite as long as real life, but it could take a long time, so, unless unless you're a teenager and have hundreds of hours you could dump into a game, you ain't beat this kind of game, but it's not the point. The point is you're kind of experiencing some things, you can try and work up relationships with other lords. You can try and take over your land. You could try and be a faithful supporter to your king. Is kind of whatever you want to do in the game. That's why I like to think of it as a medieval simulator. So it'll be interesting to see if they update it, how that'll play, but that's one I'm definitely looking forward towards.
Rainbow Six has a new one coming. It's called.
Already do this?
Well, no. I mean, what I was talking about was Ghost Recon.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're talking about all the Tom Clancy stuff,
right? I was mentioning Ghost Recon, but we got off on a Rainbow Six bit. But the new one is called Quarantine, and it's not gonna be big on PvP like their last one, which was I forget the name of it, but the last one was I think only PvP. And Siege, Rainbow Six Siege was the last one.
Yeah.
And in Siege, you play against other people where you've got some guys holed up in a house, and you choose how you breach the house and kill everybody inside.
Oh, so it's almost like Rainbow Six 1.
I never played the first Rainbow Six, so I don't know.
It's the only one I've ever played. Yeah.
This new one's called Quarantine. It's going to be a 3-person cooperative game through a story. So that'll be interesting. That sounds a lot like Vegas. So worth mentioning.
And my next one, and I don't know much about it, I just heard about it recently, and this is for classic RPG fans, Baldur's Gate 3.
I'm excited about this one, actually.
That took a long time to come out. I don't even remember when Baldur's Gate 2 came out, but it was well over 2 decades ago, I would imagine. But it was sort of the end of the old D&D games. There were the gold box games, and then you got into kind of the Icedale and Baldur's Gate, and they were some really fun games, and then they just stopped making them. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Maybe that's when TSR started having financial issues. I don't know what happened, but it kind of the games were fun, and then they just kind of disappeared. Or maybe the style of game just lost its interest. But Baldur's Gate 2 were both very, very good games. So this one I'll be looking forward to.
Are we getting into movies and TV yet? I think
that's kind of where I'm going next. So if you want to go there first.
I mean, look, we got to get the elephant, in the room out of the way. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
Never.
I am very excited. I hate to admit that there are parts that I liked about the last 2 movies, but both of them I was a little disappointed in.
You're talking about in the new trilogy.
I'm talking about in the new trilogy. I love some of the characters, but I feel that the movies did not live up to even close to live up to the potential that they did have. And
I would say the first one was a little bit better story driven.
And the first one did a great job of writing the ship, which is what needed to be done.
And kind of building a foundation for new trilogy.
Yeah, everyone's
and like, I think the second one just kind of ignored everything the first one did.
Yes. Yeah. That's, I totally agree. A lot of people complain. They're like, all they did was copy A New Hope, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But it was still a really good movie.
Yeah.
Totally watchable. But
yes, it was totally watchable.
The second one went so far off the rails that it's like, okay, what are they going to do?
It's hard to. It's going to be hard for them to recover.
Yeah. But
I'm going to see it just because I want to see the end of it. But it's kind of like I feel burned after the last one. It was really a bad movie.
And I've seen the trailer or 2 trailers actually, and everybody's like, "Oh, they're so excited." And I got to tell you, what I saw in the trailers didn't excite me. I'm excited
I've not seen the trailer,
in general.
Yeah.
You haven't seen either trailer?
No, I've avoided it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those I'm just kind of nervous to see it.
I'm very
out there.
I'm very excited because it is the last in this trilogy. I'm not very excited. I'm very apprehensive because of what I've seen in the trailers.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So I mean, my biggest complaint with the last movie was like they took all the classic Star Wars scenes and cut and paste them into a movie without having a real story behind it.
Yeah, the connective tissue wasn't there.
There was like 15 minutes of a story broken up by a bunch of scenes. I did see a bit of on television, a bit of the Han Solo. That was decent.
The Han Solo was good. Like,
from what I saw, it was okay. It was a decent
movie.
Yeah,
I loved. What was the big oh gosh, the one that's actually a war movie.
Oh god, yes. The good one. I can't remember the name of it as bad.
Rogue One.
Rogue One. I loved Rogue One.
I loved Rogue One. Yep. Rogue One is the Saving Private Ryan of Star Wars.
I heard people complaining about it. And I watched it. I had no idea why.
I don't get it. It is, if you ask me, it is arguably the best Star Wars movie they've ever made.
I would argue in agreement with you. Oddly enough,
yeah. Somebody write down the date. You're gonna come to my side on an argument.
That's right.
All right, so guys, keep your eyes open. You might see an advertisement for Star Wars.
Now, I want to see The Witcher when it comes out, and part of this is because I know there's a controversy between the guy who created The Witcher and CD Projekt Red, the creators of the games, and I think he's supposed to be supporting the television show, which is not. It's looking more towards the books and not towards the video games for inspiration, which is causing controversy online. And I don't really care what other people think about that. I just want to see what they do with it, and if it's any good.
Fair enough. I am looking forward to, while we're on the Star Wars train, The Mandalorian. So The Mandalorian is going to be...
Isn't that the vehicle from Back to the Future?
No, that is the DeLorean.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The Mandalorian is the race of people that, or I don't know if... Yeah, it's the race of people that Boba Fett was. So
it'll be a short movie and they all die very quickly.
Well, the thing is, I don't know, because the dude looks just like Boba Fett. So I don't know if the show is about Boba Fett or if it's about his father or whatever. But the trailer looks amazing, and it's going to be. I think it's 10 episodes. I could be wrong about the episode number. I feel like I heard that somewhere, but it's going to be episodic. They definitely put a lot of money into it. It looks really, really good. A lot of action, and it's going to be following a bounty hunter.
Yeah, which is good. Boba Fett always got a bad rap because of what happened in 3. If you were like me and growing up in the day and you had all the action figures, trust me, there were so many stories about how badass Boba Fett was that were written by children, which is, I think, the reason why you had a big backlash.
It was the jetpack.
It was the first backlash I remember to a movie where like the director's like, here, this is the movie. People are like, Ewoks are silly, but that Boba Fett thing was wrong. That was wrong. And it's the first time I remember like feeling that, where people were kind of like taking something that was beloved and going against it because they thought the creator did something wrong.
See, I think that they should bring Ewoks back only to show us what they did not show us and wouldn't have shown us in what is a children's sci-fi movie. The beginning, they had, Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and everybody on spits.
Oh, and they were going to eat them.
That means that Ewoks eat sentient beings.
That's right. They're like my
And elves. At the end, there's all these helmets from stormtroopers that they're pounding on like drums. They ate all those guys.
Pulled trooper. Delicious.
They ate those guys.
They ate those guys. No,
that's what I want to see is the horror. You could literally make a horror movie out of it.
The Walk.
Yeah. Yeah, the reason it's the wok is the guy's using a wok.
W-O-K.
Yeah,
That's right.
That's how it's spelled.
Just take off the E, and you got wok. That's not coincidental, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, you do know what Ewoks are and how they came about, right?
Oh, they were supposed to be Chewie's race, but
they were supposed to be
couldn't budget it.
Well, they were supposed to be Wookiees. So to take enunciating it, you've got Wookiee. Turn it around, you've got Ewok. So that's how that name came to be. And they were like, oh, we'll do a planet full of Wookiees, and they're like, we can't afford to do that. That's way too expensive. He's like, all right, cut them in half, call them Ewoks.
That's right.
And they put a bunch of little people in suits as opposed to trying to find a ton of Peter Mayhews,
which I could see would be more difficult to find.
Yes. I think that's one of the reasons that they got to go to Kashyyyk in the second of the clone series there. Not series, but I mean the movies, the original, the episodes 1, 2, and 3. I think it was in number 2 they went to Kashyyyk. It might have been number 3.
Just because they wanted to have the characters.
Yeah, well, and we got to see all these nasty Wookiees. It was great.
Well, should be.
So go check out The Mandalorian.
Mandalorian. Back to the Future, I believe. Now, speaking of the future, I want to say The Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time is a classic fantasy series. I don't want to say much more about it. If you don't know, you should go read. There's like 3,000 books or something like that. I don't know. There's not really 3,000 books, but it's a series of books. Excellent. And it's one of those interesting to see on how well it's done, or if it's done well or not.
Is it going to be a show or a movie, or?
I believe it's going to be a TV show.
Okay. The next one that I have is a movie. I cannot wait. And honestly, I might be more excited for this than Star Wars because I have high hopes for it, and I think they're going to do at least most of it right. I really want to see Terminator Dark Fate. Okay,
really? And really? I've heard about it, but I've been kind of afraid.
Well, what they're doing, if you're not aware, is that they are ignoring every Terminator movie after Terminator 2.
Okay.
This is a direct sequel.
A direct reboot. 2. Okay.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, all those other ones that just got worse and worse and worse, forget those. This is the one thing I will say, the Terminator with Christian Bale wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It had a couple of things going for it story-wise. Of course, the effects were amazing. A couple of things at the end were kind of
like in Terminator 3. The effects were amazing, but it was just not a great movie.
Well, right, yeah. And I will say that in Terminator 3, that they say that they killed off the Sarah Connor character in Terminator 3, but they don't actually show that. They say it so. I choose to believe, even while I was watching Terminator 3, that she faked her own death, because at one point they go to her grave, but the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator knows that it's full of weapons, not her body. And they
Did you ever see the short-lived series Sarah O'Connor?
I have the short-lived series.
Okay, so I guess this
I have
answered my question.
Every episode. I loved that show. It was so good, and it killed me that it got canceled, because it got canceled at a wicked cliffhanger.
Was it on a sci-fi?
Not sure. Might have been.
Remember? Okay.
I actually know. I think it was regular broadcast.
Okay.
I don't even think it was cable. I think it was one of the major networks that did that show.
That gave it a shot and then killed it, huh?
And it was so good. Like the writing in that show, the special effects were not the best, but I totally forget that, because the writing and the characters were really good. And it's funny because it's like when you say Sarah Connor, you think, Linda Hamilton. She is such that character. But these days, when you say Sarah Connor, to me, I think Lena Headey.
Okay, all right.
She was amazing.
She did fabulous.
She was so good in that role. And you also have to realize that while Linda Hamilton has been playing Sarah Connor in our minds for a long time, she played it in Terminator 1, Terminator 2, and now in the upcoming Terminator Dark Fate. But she did not have anywhere near as much time with the character as Lena Headey has.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like Daniel Jackson from Stargate. If you and the movie was done really well, and the guy who took the role over for the TV show, very much was very close to it the way it was done in the movie, but then over time it became his role.
Yeah.
So the people who watch the TV show, you can see the growth from that character from the movie into the guy who did it, Michael Shanks, in the TV show. So I like when that happens because, it's like the Jack O'Neill character was just done differently. But that's fine too. You can do that kind of stuff, but the Michael Shanks, I think, did a great job with that character, taking it from what it was in the movie until it was his own. Yeah. So the next one for me I want to bring up is Dune. I've seen the original Dune. I loved that movie. It was a horrible movie, but visually it was really good. And I'm not super familiar with the Dune series of stuff.
The books or
the books.
I have read the first book. I don't know if I started reading the second book or not. I don't think I ever did.
That's kind of where I am. Yeah. And it's like I had a video game too that was Dune that came out because of the movie in '84, a really old video game, which filled in a lot of the gaps for me. And made the story make actually some sense. So then I could watch the movie again and go, the movie didn't explain stuff really well because this is a serious, beefy novel, and it's like 1/13 or something like that of the actual story. They're supposedly going to do a couple movies off of the first book, and it'll be interesting to see if they go beyond the first book because I really know very little outside of I know the author is not a fan of the hero. So it'll be interesting to see what actually happens if you go beyond the first book.
Do you mean the character or the actor?
At all. No, at all. Just the idea of a hero. I think he was quoted. He was quoted as saying, "Charismatic leaders should come with a warning label. Might be dangerous for your health." So the first movie is sort of the build up of creating the charismatic leader. So the second book would have to obviously be
a downfall to that leader,
be a downfall for that character,
at least a turn,
or to show the consequence of the charismatic leader created in the first book. So that'll be an interesting one.
I'm at the bottom of my list.
I only got one more here, and I know very little about it, but I heard about it, and due to our old Excalibur. And our love for King Arthurian lore, there's a new series. I think it's a series coming out called The Cursed.
I do actually have one more,
and it might be a movie, but it's either a movie or a TV show called The Cursed, which is supposed to be an updating of King Arthurian legend. And so I don't know much about it, but I'm starting to look to try and find out more about that.
Hang on just a second. So I just went to a pre-release on Friday. We're recording on a Sunday this week, which is odd for us. So I went to a pre-release for Magic the Gathering. I'm a big card player. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show before, but I've been playing since Revised. So, for more than 20 years, I've been playing this game. And they just released a set called Throne of Eldraine. Eldraine? I'm going to say it Eldraine. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. But this set takes place in a plane. The whole set is based around fairy tales and Arthurian lore. That's what made me think of it. So this is the first one in this block. So there'll be another set for this. And playing in the pre-release, this was super fun. So I am definitely looking forward to the next set in this block.
Awesome sauce. All right. So that is it for this week. We don't typically do world building tasks on these types of episodes or real world tasks, but it's just go out, find the things that you love,
go enjoy people. Go enjoy some media and go tell us about it on the Facebook group.
That's right. And facebook.com/groups/Undercroft, which you should all be looking forward to. So we hope you all have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the World Builders Anvil.
We would love it if you would share the World Builders Anvil with 2 of your friends.
And so would they.
If they are unfamiliar with podcasts, then you get to introduce them to the wonderful world of podcasting.
Take them to Stitcher or iTunes, or best of all, just send them to our website, www.garduel.com.
That's GARDUL.com.
Now strike while the mithril's hot. I'm going to record here, and then we can do 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1. Recording. And I have a decent wave, and you have jazz hands. That'd be this is jazz hands. This is spirit fingers.
Oh, that's spirit fingers. I didn't realize there was actually a difference.
There is a difference.
Okay.
So I should have said you have spirit fingers. This is jazz hands. You should pull this and insert it in some way. Like just put it at the very end after we say goodbye.
Goodbye, and then have a jazz hands. This whole bit,
yeah, the whole bit, but except this part and this part and this part.
This part,
this part could go,
but this part should stay.
No, take that out too.
Okay.